They say the Hells Angels were the kings of the road, but they never met Bernie Guindon.
If you were to take a look at the biker scene in Canada in the 1970s, one club in particular would stand out. Now, you might assume I'm talking about the Hells Angels, but I'm not. I'm talking about the Satan's Choice Motorcycle Club, which at the time was the second largest biker club, not in Canada, but in the world.
At 22, he commanded the second largest motorcycle club in the world. By 30, he controlled an empire worth $60 million monthly. His soldiers numbered 300 strong. His territory stretched from Toronto to Florida, and his name made hardened criminals tremble. Think outlaw bikers were just rebels without a cause? The body count tells another story. 70 dead in a single war. Police stations bombed. Rocket launchers lighting up Toronto's skyline. A French-Canadian street fighter had turned his motorcycle club into an army that made the Hells Angels themselves come knocking.
Charming, ruggedly handsome, and radiating masculine energy, Guindon was the type of guy everybody wanted to be around.
This is Bernie Guindon's story, and the untold saga of Satan's Choice MC, Canada's most feared motorcycle club. The cold winds of Quebec shaped more than just the landscape. In the harsh winter of 1942, Bernard Bernie Guindon was born into a world of chaos and violence. His early life in Roux, Quebec, played out against the backdrop of a bootlegger father's brutality and a mother's desperate attempts to protect her children.
Nascido em 19 de novembro de 1942 na cidade de Roux, na província de Quebec, no Canadá, Bernard Odon Guindon nasceu em lar totalmente disfuncional.
Have you ever wondered what forges a leader? For Bernie, it started in that living room, where his father would pit him against his older brother Jack in brutal fighting matches for quarters.
Seu pai era pequeno criminoso e contrabandista na cidade e que agredia sua mãe todos os dias. Além disso, o principal passatempo do seu pai era colocar Guindon e seu irmão mais velho para brigarem enquanto ele ria e bebia, crescendo em
Despite Jack's size advantage, Bernie's natural fighting instinct always prevailed. His father's twisted entertainment would unknowingly plant the seeds of a future boxing champion.
His father had him fight with his brother in the living room of the family bootlegging business, and police officers and other people would watch them fight and then buy liquor, and Bernie would get 25 cents if he won the fight.
Jack tinha talento nato para o boxe e adorava treinar batendo em outros jovens rapazes e até mesmo em homens mais velhos do que ele.
But fate had other plans brewing. When Bernie's mother finally escaped her abusive marriage, she found solace in the arms of a motorcycle enthusiast.
Cansada de tanto sofrer, a sua mãe fugiu de casa e abandonou todos eles para trás. Mas com o tempo ela sentiu falta dos filhos e os convidou para viverem com ela e o seu novo companheiro, um homem que era um biker, que inclusive ensinou Guindon a andar de moto. E isso mudou a vida do jovem, que ficou fascinado pela vida biker e logo tratou de conseguir uma moto e entrar em um motoclube fora da lei.
This new stepfather introduced young Bernie to the thundering power of motorcycles in 1959. That first ride changed everything. At just 17, Bernie felt true freedom for the first time, and the roar of that engine would echo through the next 5 decades of Canadian biker history. The transformation was swift and absolute. Bernie joined the Golden Hawks Riders, marking his first step into the 1% motorcycle club world.
Em 1959, quando tinha apenas 17 anos, Guindon entrou no Golden Hawk Riders, pequeno motoclube 1% de Quebec.
Did anyone realize this French-Canadian teenager would reshape the entire Canadian biker landscape? Those early days of riding would set the stage for an empire built on 2 wheels and an iron will. For Bernie, the motorcycle wasn't just transportation, it was liberation. By age 22, he would stand as the president of what would become the second largest motorcycle club in the world. But before that ascension, there would be blood, betrayal, and brotherhood. Hey brothers, tired of YouTube? YouTube's BS and censorship, it's time to break free. That's why I've shifted gears to Patreon, where I can bring you the raw, uncensored content you crave. Join my Patreon crew and get an insane package deal. Exclusive early access to all videos, days before YouTube, 100% ad-free viewing experience. Uncensored, no-holds-barred community discussions, double the content. 2 killer videos every single week, VIP access. Direct interaction with yours truly, inside scoop, exclusive biker world updates you won't find anywhere else. Ready to join the elite? Hit that Patreon link now. Your support doesn't just keep us rolling, it fuels a revolution of uncensored, unrestricted content. Join now and unlock a world of exclusive benefits. The summer of '62 changed everything. In the sweltering heat of Toronto, the Black Diamond Riders ruled the streets with iron fists and cold steel. Their leader, Harold Johnny Somero, styled himself as the Supreme Commander, but every emperor has his challenger.
Harold Johnny Sombreiro Barnes, o autoproclamado comandante supremo dos Black Diamond Riders, o até então maior motoclube 1% da região. Johnny Sombreiro, além de líder dos Black Diamonds, também possuía laços sanguíneos com a maior família mafiosa da Itália.
You see, back then, motorcycle clubs lived and died by respect. The Black Diamonds had crushed Don Norris's original Satan's Choice chapter through sheer brutality, leaving broken men and abandoned bikes in their wake. But they hadn't counted on Bernie Guindon's tactical mind or his lethal left hook.
Sim e não. Antes de Bernie Guindon, havia outro motoclube chamado Satan's Choice, esse criado por Don Norris, mas Don entrou na lista negra dos Black Diamonds, que os espancavam sempre que os encontravam nas ruas e festas. Assim, todos os membros acabaram abandonando o motoclube por medo de Johnny, e era isso que costumava acontecer com todos os pequenos motoclubes da região, ou se dobravam aos Black Diamond ou pagavam o preço.
It all came to a head at what would later be known as the Battle of Pebblestone. Picture this: a peaceful biker field day turned bloodbath when the Black Diamonds attacked the Golden Hawks with chains and clubs. While others fell, Bernie stood his ground. His amateur boxing training proved deadly effective as he dropped several attackers, even breaking a sergeant's nose with their own weapon. Ever wonder what separates a fighter from a leader? It's what happens next. Bernie didn't just want revenge, he wanted revolution. At 22, he founded the Phantom Riders MC, recruiting street fighters and hardmen who shared his vision.
Ele resolveu que era hora de fundar o seu próprio motoclube, o Phantom Riders MC, com um grande e seleto grupo de homens com experiência em lutas de rua e sem nenhum escrúpulo. E essa estratégia foi um sucesso. Aos poucos, os Black Diamond foram perdendo território, seus membros eram pegos de surpresa e tinham seus coletes e até as suas motos roubadas.
But Bernie's master stroke came in 1965. When he resurrected Satan's Choice from the ashes.
E essa foi a reinauguração do Satan's Choice Motorcycle Club, agora com mais membros e sob o comando absoluto de Bernie Guindon.
Through strategic mergers with the Canadian Lancers, Wild Ones, and Throttle Twisters, he built an army, 300 strong. The young president's next move shocked everyone. He rode straight to the Black Diamonds clubhouse and challenged Somero to single combat. When the Supreme Commander refused, his empire crumbled. Within months, the once mighty Black Diamonds dwindled to just 15 members before disappearing entirely. Success changes things. By '67, Satan's Choice had evolved from a rebel motorcycle club into Ontario's dominant force. With chapters spreading across the province, Bernie's influence extended from Toronto's streets to Montreal's back alleys. But power always comes with a price. Remember those old westerns where the sheriff keeps watching the outlaw? The Toronto police maintained constant surveillance outside Bernie's home, questioning everyone who came or went. They knew something was brewing, but couldn't prove it. Meanwhile, Satan's Choice had grown to become the second largest motorcycle club in the world, second only to the Hells Angels. The St. Catherine's Siege of '67 became legendary. Picture this: 100 riot police, shields gleaming and batons ready, facing down 200 bikers at a field day gathering.
The most memorable one was the 1967 St. Catherine's Siege. Guindon had organized a huge field day for all bikers and associates in St. Catherine. All was going well, until several police cruisers suddenly pulled up at the premises. Then, like a scene straight out of a movie,
When the cops advanced, Bernie didn't flinch.
around 100 anti-riot officers stepped out of their vehicles in battle formations. They then proceeded to intimidatingly bang their nightsticks against their shields as they advanced towards the bikers.
Instead of retreating, he ordered a charge that sent the police scrambling back to their cruisers. That day showed everyone that Satan's Choice wasn't just another club, it was an army.
The French-Canadian president ordered his people to charge. Overwhelmed by the sheer number of bold, violent bikers, the police broke formation and quickly retreated to their vehicles. It was an impressive victory for the Satan's Choice Biker Club.
But the law wasn't finished. In 1968, Bernie faced serious charges related to an incident with a 15-year-old Ottawa girl. He maintained his innocence, claiming he believed she was of age, but the jury didn't buy it.
Bernie foi preso diversas vezes por tráfico de drogas, porte de armas, agressões, tentativa de homicídio e até por estupro contra uma jovem de apenas 15 anos, que ele disse ter achado que era maior de idade.
On May 15, 1969, the gavel fell. 5 years in Kingston Maximum Security Prison.
And on May 15, 1969, sentenced the Satan's Choice president to 5 years in prison.
Ever wonder how a man handles losing everything he built? While Bernie sat in his cell, Satan's Choice faced its first real test of survival. Some chapter presidents turned greedy. Internal conflicts erupted, and the drug profits that had helped fuel their expansion now threatened to tear them apart. Prison changes a man. Inside Kingston's granite walls, Bernie faced his toughest fight yet. The charges that put him there made him a marked man. In prison, certain crimes carry their own death sentence from other inmates.
However, it was particularly harder for Guindon. Other inmates considered him guilty of a skin beef, prison slang for those sentenced for sex crimes against children. Guindon even suffered several assaults and murder attempts.
But would you believe he refused protective custody? Through sheer force of personality and unwavering conviction in his innocence, Bernie turned enemies into allies. Even Kingston's prison psychologist Paul Henry remarked, "He was a man's man, never needed a psychologist. He was too solid, rock solid." While other inmates crumbled under the weight of confinement, Bernie's iron will never bend. Life had a way of finding Bernie, even behind bars. A female university student saw his photo in the newspaper and began writing him passionate letters. Those letters turned to conjugal visits, which led to twins and a prison chapel wedding. Ever wonder about the magnetism that draws people to certain leaders? Even locked up, Bernie's charisma couldn't be contained. Outside those walls, Satan's Choice was changing. Under acting President Garnett, the club dove deeper into the drug trade, particularly Canadian blue methamphetamine and PCP.
As Guindon served his sentence at Kingston Maximum Security Prison, Garnett took charge as the acting national president.
The profits soared, but so did the violence. By 1970, Bernie earned transfer to minimum security at Joyceville Institution for Good Behavior. But his parole came with strings attached. No association with Satan's Choice members. Bernie's response? He turned down parole. "These so-called criminals are the only friends I have," he told the authorities. Would you give up freedom to stay loyal to your brothers? In the summer of '74, after serving his time, Bernie walked free, straight back to his Satan's Choice family. But the club he'd left wasn't quite the one he returned to. Freedom brought new challenges. Bernie returned to a Satan's Choice that had grown to over 300 members across Canada. The club's power was unprecedented, but so were the risks. Think running an empire is easy? Try doing it with every law enforcement agency in the country watching your every move. Thunder Bay became his new base of operations. After reuniting with his old Satan's Choice brothers, Bernie discovered a talent that had laid dormant: boxing. His natural fighting ability translated into legitimate success. He claimed the Ontario Golden Gloves, the Eastern Canadian Golden Gloves, and even snagged a bronze medal at the 1971 Pan American Games. The Olympics beckoned for 1972 until those old rape allegations disqualified him. The drug trade had evolved during his absence. Satan's Choice now controlled a vast network spanning from Toronto to Florida, pulling in an estimated $60 million monthly from PCP and methamphetamine operations.
Com vitórias atrás de vitórias, Bernie Guindon levou o Satan's Choice de apenas um grupo de rebeldes para um verdadeiro sindicato do crime, passando a distribuir drogas para as famílias mafiosas, extorquir comerciantes e cometer roubos.
Bernie formed a strategic alliance with the Outlaws Motorcycle Club as exclusive distributors. But remember Garnett, the acting president during Bernie's prison years? He had other ideas. August 1975 brought betrayal. At a remote hunting lodge near Oba Lake, accessible only by plane, Bernie met with a drug dealer named Temple. Unknown to him, Garnett had tipped off undercover cops. The raid netted $6 million worth of PCP tablets and manufacturing equipment. Ever wonder how it feels to be betrayed by someone you trusted? The verdict came down hard in May 1976. 17 years for conspiracy to manufacture and sell drugs. As Bernie headed back to prison, his empire teetered on the brink. Would Satan's Choice survive another extended absence of its founder? The answer would reshape the Canadian biker landscape forever. Prison walls couldn't contain Bernie's influence. Behind bars, he struggled with his demons, later admitting he did more drugs inside than he ever had on the streets. But Satan's Choice faced battles of its own. Want to know what tests a club's loyalty? Try surviving without its leader. The 1980s brought change like a thunderstorm. Released in 1984 after 8 years, Bernie immediately set about rebuilding. His charisma hadn't dulled. Within months, he established 4 new chapters and recruited 95 fresh members. The drug business shifted from PCP to cocaine, establishing a lucrative pipeline from Toronto to Alberta that served the booming oil industry worker market. Violence escalated to unprecedented levels. The 1995 war with the Loners gang turned Toronto's streets into a battlefield. Rival gangs exchanged fire with rocket launchers in broad daylight. Satan's Choice retaliated against police pressure by bombing the Sudbury Police Headquarters on December 15, 1996. How far would they go to maintain their power? By the late 1990s, the landscape had shifted. Bernie, now battling brain damage from his boxing career, faced a decision that would have been unthinkable in his younger years. Walter Stadnick of the Hells Angels made persistent offers to patch over.
Fama foi crescendo tanto que chamou a atenção do maior motoclube fora da lei do mundo, os Hells Angels Motorcycle Club, que procuraram Bernie com a proposta deles serem absorvidos e se tornarem Hells Angels Full Patch, isso é, sem precisar passar pela fase de prospectos.
In December 2000, after surviving countless biker wars, including the bloody Saints Popeyes clash that claimed over 70 lives, Bernie made the call.
Porém, nesse meio tempo, muita gente morreu sob o comando de Bernie Guindon, que teve uma guerra sangrenta contra os Popeyes, motoclube de ninguém mais, ninguém menos que Yves, o Apache Trudeau, o maior psicopata do mundo biker. E essa guerra fez mais de 70 vítimas fatais. Outra grande treta foi contra os Loners MC, motoclube criado por um ex-Satan's Choice chamado Frank Laney.
Satan's Choice, the second largest motorcycle club in the world, became part of the Hells Angels. The Canadian biker, who once refused to become a puppet of an American MC, had chosen survival over independence.
Mas na ocasião Bernie recusou, dizendo em sua biografia que se recusava a virar uma marionete de um MC americano. Mas ironicamente esse seria exatamente o fim dos Satans, que se tornariam parte dos Hells Angels MC.
Bernie remained with the Hells Angels until April 2006, when he retired, but they gave him a ring to show he left in good standing. Modern times brought different challenges. Bernie's granddaughter's tragic murder in 2017 showed that violence could still touch his life, even in retirement.
Bernie continua livre, porém recentemente teve sua vida dilacerada quando sua neta, de apenas 19 anos, foi estuprada e assassinada por Adam Strong em 2017. Você não pode matar a neta de um Hells Angels e escapar impune. Adam Strong foi condenado pelo assassinato e o estupro e continua encarcerado e isolado dos demais presos.
Today, Bernie Guindon lives quietly in Oshawa, a living legend from a different era. What's his legacy? He transformed Canadian biker culture from rebel freedom to organized power, for better or worse.